Okay, we get it. The controller is modular and you can rebuild it in a million different ways. But what about the software? And can I remap my buttons? And can I have two of the same button? And can I change the analog? And can I change the LED color? And can I save my configuration and send it to my friends? And can I change it from GIP to HID so that I can use it as a keyboard with a mouse? Yes. You can do all of those things. And today I'm going to walk you through just exactly how to do that. So let's find the software. Follow this link to get to the software. You can either use it on the browser or download the app. You'll probably land on this homepage, but we're going to skip all of this and go straight to the app. Click up here, create an account and sign in. Once you've gotten your account set up, you'll land here. This is the connection page. You need to connect your controller and get into the app. Let's start. First off, you need a power cube, a charger, and a USB-C cable. So connect your charger to your power cube, make sure you lock it, and power on the power cube. And connect a USB-C cable into the charger and make sure the USB-C cable is connected to your PC. The first time you connect to the app, you might be prompted with a firmware update. So let's walk through how that goes. If you get to the screen, it tells you need a firmware update. So just select OK. And here, start the upload. And the firmware of your charger will start uploading first. Please don't turn off your power cube or unplug anything during this process. When this bar is complete, that means that your charger has finished the firmware update. You'll then need to wait for the power cube to update. So as you can see here, it goes red when it starts updating. And then it will turn off while it's updating. And then it will come back up by itself. Once it comes back up and it's powered on, you can continue onto the app. Perfect, you have the latest firmware and now you're in the app. The first thing you'll see is a live view of your controller. It's a real-time digital twin of your hardware. You can drag it around, rotate it and interact with it. And you can see that it's exactly how my actual controller looks. Over here you can change the scene's background color for better visibility. For now, let's leave it at default. Over here I can toggle whether inputs are getting sent to the console. By default, they're off when I'm connected to the app, which is really helpful for when you're remapping your buttons and you don't want your random button presses coming up in the game. But if you want to test your inputs or go back to playing while the app is still running, just switch to on so it can start sending inputs again. When you disconnect from the app, it will automatically go back to sending inputs, so you don't need to worry about that. If you have a version 2 controller, you will see this HID toggle to switch between standard controller mode and keyboard mode. We'll dive a little bit into that later, but for now, your controller is connected and it's ready to be remapped. What if you could remap the actual button itself, not just the input? Well, that's what the Proteus controller does. When you're remapping a button on the Proteus controller, you're actually remapping the physical button itself. So if I take this button off and put it on something else, it's going to stay remapped. And the best thing is it has two different mappings on the same button. So I have a GIP mapping when it's in controller mode, and I have a HID mapping when it's in keyboard mode. The other good thing about this is when I have two of the same buttons, I can remap each of them individually. On most controllers, if you remap one A, you're remapping all the A's in your controller. But on this controller, I'm remapping each of these individually. So let's remap your controller. Open the menu with the 4 dots. That's your remapping menu. As you can see, I actually don't have any peripherals connected. So let me add an ABXY. Once the peripheral connects, my configuration updates and I can see it here. Perfect. Let's reopen the remapping menu and here you can see all of the buttons that have been mapped. So this ABXY is mapped to all of its defaults. I don't have any other peripherals connected so I can't see anything else. But let me add this left analog cube and show you what happens. My configuration has updated and when I go into the remapping menu, I can now see that L3 is added, which is this left stick button. I can also go into analog inputs and see my left analog cube is connected. But let's start with remapping buttons. To remap a button, just press the one you want to change. This opens the remapping menu for that particular button. Here you can see all of the inputs you can map to. You can also unbind a button, which means that it won't press anything anymore. But I'm going to remap this A button to B, so I select the input and I press update. Now you can see over here that my A is now B. If I want to remap my B button, I do the same thing, so I press B, and you can see that now B is highlighted, and I want to remap my B to A, press update, and now my B is updated to A. I'm in the middle of building my controller and I've run into an issue. This is forward, but I want to play it this way. Let me show you exactly how to change your analog stick direction so this is no longer a problem. First, open up the remapping menu and go over to analog inputs. Then move the analog stick you want to remap. Let's explain the UI over here. So on the left, you can see this UI represents the physical N on my analog cube. If I move the analog stick opposite to the N, then the UI will also move opposite to the N. If I move towards the N, the UI also moves towards the N. The right side represents the forward direction relative to the N. So by default, forward is facing the same way that N is facing. To change the forward direction, just move the analog stick the way you want forward to be, and then press update. And now everything is updated relative to the new forward direction. You can also invert your horizontal axis, so your left and your right, and your vertical axis, your forward and your back. And you can switch between left and right stick. Another feature we're going to take a look at is recalibrating your analog sticks and triggers and changing analog stick and trigger dead zones. Under the remapping menu under analog inputs, you can select your dead zone for your analog sticks. Move the analog stick you want to edit and adjust this bar to increase or decrease your dead zones. And then to save, hit Update Dead Zone. For triggers, follow the same process. To recalibrate your analog stick, move the analog stick you want to recalibrate and open the menu. Select the analog stick you want to recalibrate and start calibration. You can see that the power cube turns pink when it's in calibration mode. When it's in calibration mode, move the analog stick around in a circle 3 times. Then press stop calibration and you will exit calibration mode. To recalibrate triggers, do the same thing. Select the trigger and press down on the trigger you want to recalibrate and then start calibration. Your power cube will turn pink again, and you need to press down fully on the trigger at least 3 times before exiting calibration mode by pressing stop calibration. When you stop calibration, your power cube should return back to its default color. This has been one of the most requested features we've ever had. I want to use my controller as a keyboard and I want macros. Well, we finally delivered it and let's get into how it works. Let's take a look at macros. Select this M to open the macros menu. You'll see that there's 2 different types of macros. Basic macros are macros that are just a single input on a single button. So mapping Control C to a button. Macros with timing are a little different. They actually take in the timing between button presses or mouse movements. So let's record a simple macro. Open the drop-down and type in the macro you want to save to a button. For example, Control-Shift. You can also select the slot that the macro is automatically going to save to. Your controller has 5 different slots. And you can save up to 5 different slots on your controller, but you can save infinite number of macros, so you can swap out between different slots. Select Save Macro and give it a name. Control and Shift. Save. Now your macro has been saved to your library of saved macros. Here you can see it there. And you can load this macro onto different slots. So for example, I could load it onto slot C. To add a macro to your controller, make sure you switch to HID mode. And as you can see, some macros have already been saved to my configuration. Press the button you want to remap and find the macro you want. You can quickly search for the macro you want. So I'm going to save macro A to this button Y. Now let's take a look at complex macros. So open up this menu, select the slot you want to save your macro to, and give your macro a name. Open up this menu and select the time you want to record for. Then press start recording, and during that time, it will record all of the button inputs and mouse inputs that you have. After the time is up, we'll finish recording and you can save your macro and then load it the exact same way you do with a basic macro. Do you want to customize your controller even more? Let's change the LED color. First, head over to the lighting menu. And don't forget, you need to plug in your dongle and have your controller connected to actually see your LEDs. Here is the default blue. It's a sort of mid-level color, but I'm going to turn mine all the way up to full red. And as you can see, as I change the color, the snake LED goes around and updates all of the LEDs. So you can also turn the LEDs all the way down. We recommend this to save battery life, so the lower your LEDs are here, the longer your battery will last. This is the last tab we'll show you today. This is the Community tab. You can see community saved configurations as well as your own saved configurations. In order to save a configuration, make sure you close the remapping menu, and then arrange your controller in the way that you want, and press Save Configuration, and it takes a screenshot of this controller. Then give your configuration a name, add some tags so other people can find it, and a description. And hit Save. Perfect. Now you've saved your first configuration. You can find your configuration by going back to your user profile or heading over to the Community tab we just showed you.